Welcome to today's session on FODZYME Digestive Enzymes for FODMAPs. In this brief video, you'll learn about FODZYME and how to use it with your patients. I'm Jocelyn Wells, a registered dietitian with a specialty in GI nutrition. Here at FODZYME, I support our community of healthcare providers through educational programming, research, and product communication. FODZYME is our blend of digestive enzymes that's specifically designed to break down the most common FODMAP triggers. These are fructan, GOS, and lactose. FODZYME breaks down FODMAPs into simple carbohydrates that are absorbed in the small intestine. This reduces the amount of FODMAPs that reach the colon, therefore reducing FODMAP-related digestive issues like bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, and abdominal pain. Before we get further into FODZYME, I want to zoom out and share briefly on digestive enzymes overall and how they're related to FODMAPs. So, what are digestive enzymes? At a high level, all enzymes are simply specialized proteins, so chains of amino acids, that are folded in particular ways to catalyze reactions. The subcategory of enzymes, digestive enzymes, can act on troublesome foods, including FODMAPs, to break them down. Digestive enzymes also exist that can target fats and proteins, though our focus here is on carbohydrates. These are examples of carbohydrate substrates, including FODMAPs, and the enzymes that can target them. When it comes to digestive enzymes for FODMAPs, the purpose of these enzymes is to break down the FODMAPs in foods before the FODMAPs can trigger symptoms when they reach the lower half of the digestive tract, which is generally where FODMAPs tend to trigger symptoms. I use the analogy that digestive enzymes act as specialized molecular scissors to break down FODMAP molecules, making them easier to digest. This can be a helpful way to explain how digestive enzymes work to help improve food tolerance when discussing enzymes with patients. Examples of enzymes that break down FODMAPs include fructan hydrolase, alpha-galactosidase, and lactase. What's also important to note is that, with the exception of lactase, the body does not produce enzymes that target FODMAPs. When it comes to FODMAP metabolism in, quote, healthy individuals, FODMAPs are either metabolized by the gut bacteria without triggering symptoms, or they simply pass through the digestive tract entirely and then are excreted. FODMAPs can become an issue in those with sensitive digestive tracts, often seen in IBS, when they get fermented. Because the gut bacteria are partially responsible for FODMAP metabolism, this can be why FODMAPs are particularly troublesome in those with dysbiosis. So for these folks, digestive enzymes can provide extra support against the symptoms that FODMAPs might otherwise trigger. So returning to FODZYME, we designed our formula to address the most common FODMAP triggers. Our blend contains 3 active enzymes to deliver the most symptomatic benefit for patients. It includes fructan hydrolase, alpha-galactosidase, and lactase. Our novel and proprietary fructan hydrolase enzyme makes us the only digestive enzyme on the market that can break down the wide spectrum of fructans found in plants. These include inulin, as well as FOS and levain. We're also working on development of a polyol targeting enzyme. Apart from the enzymes in our formula, so the proteins themselves, we also have a small amount of maize-derived dextrin to stabilize the enzymes and ensure they have the longest shelf life possible. FODZYME is also a powder, which is a key factor in its increased efficacy over products in pill or capsule form. FODZYME begins working on the food as soon as it comes into contact with it, so application directly to food as a powder creates maximum homogenization between our enzymes and the FODMAP-containing foods they're aiming to break down. Many patients tell us they've tried enzymes before with little success, but do achieve symptom relief with FODZYME, and it's often for this reason. A powder format is just far more effective. There's a wide variety of patients that can benefit from using enzymes, and at a high level, anyone with a sensitivity to fructan, GOS, and lactose can benefit from FODZYME. Many examples here are patients who would be contraindicated for a low FODMAP diet, such as those with a risk of disordered eating or history of one, those on a restrictive diet already, or those who might have trouble with compliance to a low FODMAP diet. Even beyond that, though, FODZYME can really be helpful in allowing a wide variety of patients to liberalize their diets or achieve symptom relief without needing to make a lot of diet changes. I'm also often asked when a patient would use FODZYME. This will generally depend on if a patient has trialed a low FODMAP diet, and where they are in their awareness of their FODMAP triggers. Patients can use FODZYME prior to diet change when knowingly eating foods that contain suspected or known FODMAP triggers. They might also use FODZYME regardless of a meal makeup when FODMAP content is unknown, such as when traveling or at an event. Patients can also use FODZYME after identifying their FODMAP triggers through a low FODMAP diet. In this case, they would use FODZYME with known FODMAP triggers during the personalization phase to help liberalize their diet and create a more flexible eating pattern long term. Here's a quick guide to help patients get started right away. Patients receive a copy of this with their first order. FODZYME gets applied directly to food, either on the meal and mixed in or onto the first bite and chewed well. Again, this is to create maximum contact between the enzymes and the FODMAPs. The standard dose is based on typical FODMAP tolerance thresholds and the average amount of FODMAPs in most meals. However, for longer and larger meals, patients can increase dosage. Enzymes are highly safe, so there's no risk to using a bit extra. When first getting started with FODZYME, we encourage regular use for at least several days with FODMAP triggers or suspected triggers, so patients can fully learn how FODZYME helps manage their symptoms with various meals. Here are foods high in fructan, GOS, and lactose to use with FODZYME. We also provide patients with lists like these. Here too are a couple suggestions on easy, simple dishes to try with FODZYME during their first week. Each of these recommended trial options includes a single portion of various trigger foods. With FODZYME, patients can enjoy high FODMAP meals like these. From a classic grilled cheese to pizza and garlic bread, FODZYME really opens up so many more options so that they can really have the food that they're craving. Plus, since many FODMAPs are in plant-based, high-fiber foods, FODZYME allows patients to build a more balanced diet by adding in foods like beans, legumes, whole grains, and more fruits and veggies. What we also hear so often is how patients find FODZYME really provides extra confidence to reintroduce foods that they've been scared or reluctant to add back in for so long. Our aim with FODZYME is to provide a tool to help patients liberalize their diet and relax around foods again, which is really what we hear from our community every day. And in case you're interested in our research, we've also tested FODZYME's efficacy through a simulated model of the human digestive tract, which allows us to quantify exactly what's happening at each stage of digestion in a way that you could not with a human body. Our peer-reviewed research showed that 90% of a 3-gram dose of fructan was degraded within 30 minutes. And just for context, that's about 6 garlic cloves worth of fructans, so a very hefty dose. In addition, our research showed that use of FODZYME with this prebiotic source supports short-chain fatty acid production. This is important because short-chain fatty acids are important for colonic health, and fructans can be a major source of prebiotics in a typical diet. One concern with a low FODMAP diet is that it may be low in prebiotic fiber, which could be associated with lower short-chain fatty acid production. So the implication here is that by using FODZYME with prebiotics like fructans, fermentation is reduced enough to help minimize gas production, but not completely depleted, so patients can still experience the benefits of prebiotics. Basically, this allows for the best of both worlds and implies that an enzymatic approach may be more favorable to overall colonic health than simply avoiding FODMAPs altogether. And if you did have any questions about fructose, another FODMAP that can trigger symptoms when consumed in excess of glucose, here's a bit more detail. At a high level, there really is no concern that the breakdown of fructan to fructose might trigger fructose-induced symptoms. In that same research, we saw that 70% of fructose liberated from fructan breakdown was absorbed during simulated small intestinal transit time. So even if FODZYME were to degrade the entire fructan content of a clove of garlic, about half a gram, this would add a maximum of half a gram of extra fructose to the meal, which is nowhere close to the amount needed to trigger fructose-related symptoms. And in case you had any questions on safety or contraindications, here's a brief overview. FODZYME is regulated as a dietary supplement by the FDA. We also do our own third-party testing of every batch for heavy metals, microbes, and other contaminants. The enzymes in our blend are generally regarded as safe or GRAS, and to date there have been no known adverse events. FODZYME is also free of the top 9 allergens. Our formula contains only the active enzymes, and a bit of non-GMO maize-derived dextrin as stabilizer. And lastly, there really are very few contraindications. The only one would be galactosemia, which is a highly rare hereditary condition. Apart from that, I'll also note that patients with corn intolerances may experience some sensitivities, though this will really depend on their actual level of tolerance to corn products overall. FODZYME is available both on our website and on Amazon in the US. All orders on our website ship for free in the US. We offer a subscription option, which helps patients take 20% off their orders. Subscriptions are zero commitment and can be paused, canceled, skipped at any time. We also offer many resources for providers and patients. All patients are offered a free onboarding call with our team, which is a brief 15-minute session to provide education on FODZYME and allow them to ask any questions that they have. We also have many handouts and workbooks for you to use with patients as you're educating them on FODMAPs and digestive health. For example, here's a snapshot of our grocery list with low FODMAP foods and higher FODMAP foods to use with FODZYME. Again, these are all on our website for you to download and share with patients. In our guides, we also have recipes for your patients that are specifically designed for use with FODZYME. Our resources also provide guidance to help patients gradually add back in FODMAPs with FODZYME. These are the suggested portions for FODMAP challenges from Monash. If patients fail to tolerate these portions during phase 2 of the low FODMAP diet, they could then try them with FODZYME and test their tolerance as well. And then in our resources, we also have a lot of journaling tools, workbooks, and guides for you to use with patients. So all to say, we offer a lot of clinical support for healthcare providers. So in addition to those handouts and workbooks, we also have a library of on-demand continuing education webinars on a range of GI nutrition topics. These are all presented by experts in digestive health nutrition. We can also send samples, and I'm always available for one-on-one calls or to answer any questions you have to troubleshoot cases with patients. And if you are at a group clinic, we can also schedule time for a group training or FAQ session with others on your team. So I want to thank you all for your interest. Please feel free to reach out to us anytime at partners@fodzyme.com. We're always here to support any way we can.